Good evening and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. Thank you so very much for tuning in. You know, all of you this week, this is Debbie Georgatos, your host on Ladies Can We Talk. This week, I'll bet every single person listening to this radio show heard that John Boehner had a few choice remarks about one of the presidential candidates. And John Boehner, again, the former Speaker of the House, ousted by his own House members, his own GOP House members. And he was interviewed at Stanford. And John Boehner referred to Senator Ted Cruz, really one of the only two remaining candidates in the GOP presidential primary, referred to Ted Cruz as Lucifer, which means the devil. And he also really pretty much unloaded on him, talked about he's just used very rough language about Ted Cruz, said he's a mean-ol and SOB and all sorts of very, very harsh terms. And the reason I wanted to talk with you about that tonight is I think that obviously John Boehner thinks he is influencing the presidential cycle, that people are actually going to get upset about what it is he said, and they're going to somehow turn against Ted Cruz. I want to just tell you why, and this is the answer to the question, why would John Boehner say such a thing if it were not true? And this is the answer of why he would say it even though it's not true. And that is this. John Boehner, along with many people in the GOP establishment in Washington, worked very hard to establish themselves in power in Washington, to live in the, as Ted Cruz commonly refers to it, the DC cartel. They're the insiders, the elite ruling class. And when Ted Cruz came along, when Ted Cruz went to the United States Senate as a victorious senator after his Texas Senate race, and stood up for the things he said he would stand up for. When he, Ted Cruz, was willing to go to Washington and actually fight Obamacare, not just say he would fight Obamacare, not just promise he was really going to do something about Obamacare, but actually do it, this caused extreme upset within the GOP. And the reason is because Ted Cruz's conduct in being willing to stand strong in the Senate and actually to bring about the temporary shutdown of government as a means of trying to force the effort to shut down Obamacare, to stop Obamacare. When he did that, Ted Cruz's conduct let the world see what the GOP is really all about. Ted Cruz forced the senators in Washington to either stand with him and do what they all told their voters they would do too, which was to fight President Obama, to fight Obamacare, or to have to go back on their word to their voters and stand against Ted Cruz and his efforts to defund Obamacare. Ted Cruz led the charge in Washington to stand for principle. He made he made the Republicans in Washington look bad. Ted Cruz started, and he was one of the instigators, not the instigators of the Tea Party movement, but the broader awakening in the American people that said, wait a minute, we work hard to get conservatives elected, and you never stand up. Ted Cruz started the hashtag, Make DC Listen. He raised the awareness in millions and millions of Americans around the country that their elected officials in Washington were not listening to them, were not doing what they said they would do. And Ted Cruz made the John Boehners of the world look bad because enough people got to Washington and joined on Ted Cruz's mission, or at least went along with him, and pretty soon the elite, the John Boehner ruling class of the House, his unwillingness to fight, his comfort settled into his establishment elite role was obvious to the people. John Boehner's the one who lost his seat. Not only he could not win re-election for Speaker of the House, he ultimately decided to step down and leave Congress. Now, again, to be clear, Ted Cruz doesn't know John Boehner. And yeah, I think that became clear afterwards, but Ted Cruz was a senator. John Boehner was the Speaker of the House, two separate houses in Washington. Ted Cruz has said since the time of these ugly remarks by John Boehner, I maybe said not even 50 words to him in my entire life. Ted Cruz could not vote John Boehner out of the speakership. What happened was Ted Cruz raised Americans' awareness to the point that John Boehner could not sit fat and happy in his seat in Washington any longer. And this is part of, and so he was forced out by his own GOP colleagues who realized John Boehner can't lead us anymore. We need someone who can lead and lead the conservatives in a better, stronger way. So I'm telling you folks, when you hear this language out of John Boehner, you have to know this is precisely John Boehner's attitude, his notion of just being outraged that somebody came to Washington and pointed out to the American voters that the GOP in Washington never listens to the people. This is why John Boehner said that, and this is why the John Boehner attitude, this is why out of a field of 17 GOP candidates for president, the only 2 left standing are the 2 outsiders, Senator Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. And the reason they're left is because people want somebody like a Ted Cruz, someone like a John Boehner like a Ted Cruz and Donald Trump to fight against the establishment. This is Debbie Georgatos, and Ladies Can We Talk? I have some amazing data to share with you right after this break about how much the GOP presidential race is wide open. It ain't over yet. Come back after the break.